Zac, you share a sport, but you also share kind of a commonality in that you both won championships. So tell me a little bit about what it means. And I know there's a little bit of history or, time between now and then, but you won an Ontario championship with Guelph, right? An OHL championship. What do you remember about that? And what do you remember about your family's response to that?
I think, I think looking back at the time, I don't necessarily know if I realized how special it was to have the opportunity to win and then to have the opportunity to go to the Memorial Cup. I remember, looking back, like Rebecca said, growing up, we grew up the season tickets to the 67s in Ottawa. And that was, the 67s were just as much professionals, hockey superstars to us as much as the Sens were at that time, because we spent so much time around
right
your hockey game. And I think that was something that really influenced my decision to go with the OHL. Ultimately was that, I wanted the opportunity to play in the Civic Center where I grew up watching, John Tavares and all these legends play before they got the chance to play in the NHL. And to me, that was the coolest thing. So I think I probably got a little off topic there on the question, but
no, it's meaningful, right? Like it had historical same thing for you, Rebecca, when he wins, you guys had grown up watching this, the 67s in the Ontario. Was it a big deal to watch him win an Ontario Hockey League championship?
Yeah, for sure. He obviously was playing on such a cool team that year. They did really well all season, and it was so fun to just kind of watch them on that run. And that was kind of when I saw that like Zac was as good as he is. And
yeah,
I was like, wow, this guy's scoring 3 goals in an OHL game as a defenseman. Like, he's pretty good. So that was a really fun year to be able to watch. And that was right before I was heading to school, I think. So it was kind of cool to experience that.
So I'm going to flip it around. And for the purpose of this conversation, because we're in Calgary, it should be pointed out, Rebecca, you played for the Calgary Inferno. You won a CWHL championship in Calgary. So let's reverse this. What was it like for you to win that championship?
It was so fun. Our team was just so fun to play on that year. It was my first professional season, and I was just obviously a little bit nervous leaving school, leaving kind of what I knew, and then going to Calgary. I just was having the best time. Our team, we just gelled so well, and we had so many incredible people that I looked up to, Olympians from all different countries, and yeah, coming together, winning that championship, it just felt really nice. And then it being the last CWHL championship, also kind of similar to Zac, like in that moment, you don't realize the magnitude of the event, but then now looking back on it, it's a huge deal. So it was really cool.
Zac, what do you remember about that, or how did you, follow along with that one?
I mean, I think for the biggest thing for me was not so much just the championship, but the overall season. I think it was I remember it being her first year out of school. And it was kind of Rebecca's first opportunity to be on, the world stage, because at the end of the day, the top women in the world are playing in the CWHL at that time. And for her to have the opportunity to see the season she has as a rookie, I think it really opened my eyes. And I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to what she could accomplish in terms of being a part of the national team going forward. And I think that's what's kind of disappointing about there not being a league for them to play in now, is I think it was something that you saw so much development from a young girl like Rebecca, that it really opened up, I'm sure, Hockey Canada's eyes to the level that she could play at. And I think, not having the opportunity of a season like that really takes away the opportunity of a girl like Rebecca to try to push the envelope for a spot on a team where, if there's only a handful of events for her to make her name, it's hard for them to, decide against a previous Olympian or a previous world champion that had played on the team before. Having a season like that gives her the opportunity to play in front of everyone's eyes, especially playing out of Calgary. Yeah. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, was it was the first opportunity where we got to see her, take over and play at the highest level with the top end girls, not just obviously at a school like BU, but then on top of that at the professional level with not just, girls within a 4-year age gap, but with the best girls and the best women in the world.
So Rebecca, I'll come back to Team Canada in a second, because that's kind of a current topic. And I guess this topic is too, but we are living in a little bit of a moment of time. As we're sitting here doing this interview right now, your brother's wearing a PWHPA shirt. And we are kind of hopefully making some headway here. I know it's been frustrating, and it's certainly got to be frustrating for you, but can you just talk about being in the middle of the revolution that the women's game is in right now?
Yeah, I think that we're so lucky to have such trailblazers on our side. We've got the biggest names in female hockey working with us to kind of hopefully set up a viable league that maybe in the next few years or even in the next 10 years, little girls can dream of playing in a professional women's league. And that's obviously the end goal, but we're just so lucky to have people like Cassie Campbell, people like Jana Hefford, even people that are still playing like Hillary Knights and Murray Flip-Flynn. These people are putting obviously their career and their on like a lot of the, in a sense, financials aside. Like we were making a little bit of money in the CWHL, but having to kind of put that aside and just play for the love of the game, to play to better the game. I think it's a huge deal. And I'm really looking forward to kind of what will happen in the next few weeks and few months. And I think that had the CWHL not shut down and had we not taken this step as a united group, we may not ever have seen a female hockey league. So I think it's huge what we've done.
Zac, what about you? I mean, you play in a professional league, you know what they're striving for. You know, there's a lot of support, or at least seems to be a lot more support than there has been in the past. We've seen the National Hockey League allow, or bring women into the All-Star game, et cetera, et cetera. But you're right in the middle of it. Are we doing enough? Can the men's side, as it were, do a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure they get the notoriety they deserve.
Right.
There's no question that any athlete like Rebecca or any of the other women are putting in just as much effort as any of the men's that are playing at the professional level. And I think the biggest thing is there's as much as the girls can do to kind of create their name, it comes down to people like you and me that are out there supporting the game. It's the support that from outside, and the people, going to watch the games and watching them on TV. That's where, at the end of the day, that's where the support needs to come from in order to help grow that game. So I think, they're doing everything they can. They're working extremely hard. They compete at extremely high level, and there's no question that they deserve the recognition. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, people tuning in and people showing their support.
This might be the longest Zoom call in North American history that has not uttered the phrase COVID or pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think it behooves us to bring it up. I know everybody points to Rudy Gobert last year as kind of the changing point in how North America dealt with the pandemic. But Rebecca, it was really the World Women's Championships that kind of grabbed my attention. When those were canceled, it really hit home. What has the last, with all the the trials and tribulations, add a pandemic into that, what's the last year been like for you?
Yeah, once kind of the pandemic hit, I made the decision to move back to Ottawa. With the unknown of what was going to happen the next season, I just felt it'd be better to be closer to home, closer to family. So this year, instead of training in Calgary, I've been training out of Montreal, and we've been pretty lucky to have a safe environment to train in. There's, I would say, probably 15 of us national team players training together in Montreal. So we have practices and games, and we're on the ice 5 times a week, and we're in the gym. And so although the year's been different in the sense that we don't have games to play or meaningful games and series, we've been lucky to have such a great environment, whereas some, even people in Calgary or Toronto, they haven't had the same opportunities to skate as a group. And in the sense of Hockey Canada, this year has been extremely different for them leading into the Olympics. This is a huge year. They have to decide their centralized roster. They have to decide who they want to select to the World Championships. So not having our September camp had to be canceled. And then they didn't see us until January. So it was almost a full year that our whole team wasn't together. So yeah, definitely a lot changed, but we're lucky that we're able to get together now this week in Halifax and to prepare and hopefully earn a spot towards the World Championships. Everything
you just said leads me to believe that this is going to be one of the most competitive camps we've seen.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that everyone's ready to go. I mean, yeah, we had a camp in March and a camp in January, and the pace was just really high, and everyone's just super excited and grateful to be able to be together. But now knowing that there's games on the line and there's a World Championship on the line, I think that the energy will be even higher.
Well, I promise you off the top, I wouldn't ask you the question that everybody asks until the end. So here we go. Zac, who's the better? Now, we should point out, positionally, you guys have chosen different paths, defenseman versus a forward. Who's the better player, Zac?
Well, it's easy. It's Rebecca.
Rebecca?
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely Zac.
Fair enough. We'll agree to a saw-off. Listen, this has been a lot of fun. Rebecca, best of luck.
Thank you.
I know all of us are waiting for the inevitable meetup between Canada and the USA. We haven't had one in a long time. We need one really bad. And Zac, just one last thought. What is it like to watch a sibling chase an Olympic dream?
It's incredible. I mean, even, growing up, like she said, we grew up watching the women's win the Olympics with Cassie Campbell captaining, in 2002 when they won the Olympics in Salt Lake. It goes as far back as that, watching the women win just as much as what the men. So to now watch her compete for that is incredible. And it's something special to watch.